All right, welcome once again, everyone, to Woodward Academy Debate Week. We're in the middle of fourth period in my government econ class. For those of you all who don't know me, my name is Mr. Jackson. Off to my left here, we have Miss Maggie Berthume, the director of Woodward Academy Debate, and off to my right, I have my other colleague, Mr. Bill Batterman, who is the assistant director of debate. This is day 2 of our debate week, and we have first on the schedule, we have the issue regarding drone attacks. We have Mr. Trevor Dallaire, who is going to be arguing on the pro side of drone attacks, and we have Miss Samantha Friedman, who will be arguing the con side of the debate. Let's hear from Ms. Berthume first. Ms. Berthume, please handicap this particular debate for us. What will you be expecting to hear with respect to the issue of drone attacks?
Well, this is a very timely issue because it's something that President Obama is getting a lot of criticism from the left on. The use of drone attacks in both Afghanistan, Pakistan, and potentially some domestically has created some political difficulties for him that may also play out in the international sphere. So it's an interesting debate that involves the intersection of politics, war policy, and the effectiveness of this type of strategy.
All right, very good. All right, now, Mr. Batterman, handicap it for us. What will you be expecting to hear from the two students regarding the debate involving drone attacks?
Well, in the previous debates that we've had so far this week about drones, there's been some issue with making sure that we're clear about what we're debating about. Are we talking about drone strikes in foreign countries? Are we talking about the domestic use of drones for surveillance? I'm hoping that the students will clarify and be very clear about what the specific issue is that they're debating, and then I'm hoping that there will be a lot of strong rebutting of opposing arguments if they're very clear about responding to each of the arguments that their opponent made.
All right, very good. So without further ado, we're going to first hear from Trevor Dallaire, who will be giving his opening statement on drone attacks. Then we'll hear the opening statement from Samantha Friedman, followed by rebuttal from both sides. So let's turn our attention and our camera away from us in the studio and to the debate presenters. Trevor.
Yes. Okay. A UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle, or a drone. These are technically advanced vehicles which allow projected military power without human operator vulnerability. These drones can be expendable or recoverable. They carry a lethal or a non-lethal payload, which means they can do surveillance or they can do a strike, which would end in killing an enemy combatant. The U.S. drone fleet has increased from 50 to 7,500 drones in the last 11 years alone. They are operated by military fighter pilots located in remote locations all over the United States. These fighter pilots are located in top-secret, secure locations, fighting across the world without placing themselves in harm's way. The pros surrounding around the drone usage over the years, between 2004 and 2012, the Bush and the Obama administration have authorized over 302 drone strike attacks in and around Afghanistan. These drone strikes produce kills over 2,100 enemy combatants. Approximately 62% of the people in the United States approve of the unmanned aerial vehicle strikes. 83% of the death rate are insurgents, while 17% are civilian casualties. There is minimal risk to Americans using this technology because we do not place our soldiers in harm's way. These drones have additionally killed 20 head leading Al-Qaeda leaders since 9/11. It's some economic pros to it. They cost less. They range from $12 million to $13 million versus a usual fighter jet, which would cost $150 million. There's a $137 million difference. So obviously a drone has a much greater economic pro than placing our soldiers in harm's way. One of the main things is that there's zero ability to retaliate against these drones. They're silent, they're deadly, and they can fly up to 12 hours running on nothing but a small snowmobile motor. There's zero pilot death, so the pilots can go home and be with their families every night for dinner, and to me that means the most.
Okay. I believe that the use of drone strikes is unethical and unconstitutional. Every year, many innocent civilians are killed in the midst of a drone attack. Each year, heartbreaking stories come from villages in Pakistan of how a family was killed without a reason. Just last year, 176 children were killed from these attacks in Pakistan. Not only are there concerns for the people of the foreign countries, but also the drones have taken away the constitutional rights of a few American citizens. Back in 2011, Abdul Rahman was killed by a drone attack. He was born in Denver, and the 16-year-old teenager was falsely accused of terrorism acts just because of his father, Anwar al-Awlaki, who is thought to be tied to al-Qaeda. This incident raises the issue that since al-Awlaki and his son were both American-born citizens, they were never given a fair trial and never actually were proven guilty of what they were accused of. Being an American citizen, they are entitled to all the rights stated in the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment states that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. When someone is shot by the drone, their death is instantaneous. Both of these American citizens died without actual proof that they were behind the crimes that were done. In fact, one of them was not even involved in any terrorist acts at all. It's now become so easy for the United States to target and kill the terrorists that it doesn't even make up for the fact that the American citizens are being falsely accused of these crimes and the drones are being used against them.
In rebuttal to what Samantha said, it is a law that the FAA has outlawed all drone flights in the United States airspace. This includes Guam, Puerto Rico, Alaska, and the Hawaiian Islands. We use drones to destroy and seek out the enemy combatants who are terrorizing Americans and our allies all over the world. It's very successful in my opinion because we do not have to place our soldiers in harm's way. We can combat them from thousands of miles away without even having anyone being shot at. We pull a trigger and they're gone, and that is 100 U.S. lives saved. There were 20 terrorists or so for the 9/11 attack, and they killed over 3,000 people alone. If we could have taken those 20 guys out and we could have ended that, we would have saved 3,000 American lives. And I think with more of these drone strikes, and it would be very, we could just save more American lives and save more innocent people's lives who are dying every single day to the hands of these terrorists.
Well, I believe that since the drones are not actually a declaration of war, it's become so easy for the president to use his power to send over these drones, and it's prolonged the situation. Even though that it's killing the terrorists, they're using it unjust power here because there are people that were American citizens that they were thought to be terrorists that they didn't give their own American rights to, and that they were just killed right there and then.
All right, very, very good debate between Trevor and Samantha on this very important issue regarding the issue of drone attacks. All right, we'll start first with Mr. Batterman. Mr. Batterman, give us your critique of the two students' performance on drone attacks.
I thought it was quite good. I thought that both sides did a good job of outlining their arguments in their first speech, and then both responded to the arguments of their opponent in the second speech. The part of the debate that I wish would have gotten more attention, and if the debate had been longer, I think that probably would have become the central issue, is whether involvement in places like Afghanistan is desirable and whether the use of drones prolongs U.S. involvement in conflicts it shouldn't be in. I thought that was an interesting thread that Samantha raised right there at the end. But I thought it was a very good debate.
All right. Ms. Berthium, explain to us what your critiques are of this particular debate.
I agree. I thought that Trevor introduced a number of issues, and then based on the effectiveness of these policies, and then Samantha introduced a constitutional issue. I would like to see a little more precision between whether we're talking about drone surveillance in the U.S. or drone strikes elsewhere, but I thought both sides did an okay job of covering both of those issues. So, well, it was a lot going on in a single debate. It was mostly because the students were doing a good job presenting all of the issues.
All right, very good. All right, now, as we move along here in our fourth period government econ debate week, we're going to talk about a totally different subject, and that's the subject regarding embryonic stem cell research. We have two students who have done their opinion papers on both sides, and but they're only going to be arguing on one, and those two students are Garrett Snyder, who will be arguing the pro side of embryonic stem cell research, and we have Mr. Clay McMillan, who will be arguing the con side. All right, let's go back to you, Ms. Berthium. Explain to us what will you be anticipating when you hear these two students speak on embryonic stem cell research?
This is another debate where we're likely to hear arguments weighing the morality of a particular issue against the possible scientific and health benefits of it. And I'll be looking to see both which debaters do a good job of backing up their claims with medical research and or that sort of thing, and also which are better able to resolve the issues by explaining which of those things we should prioritize as a society.
All right, so for you, the evidence will be as important as the argument.
Indeed.
All right, now, Mr. Betterman, explain to us your critique or your handicap of this particular debate regarding embryonic stem cell research.
I definitely agree with that. We've heard some good debates about this issue so far this week, but the missing component was more discussion of the scientific evidence that supports the arguments on both sides. It's also just a tough one because it requires individuals to weigh competing values, and that can be hard to do, as we've seen over the course of some of these debates. So I'm hoping that the students really talk about why the argument that they're making should be prioritized over the argument that their opponent is making.
Well, I'm sure that they will. All right, so we'll first hear from Garrett Snyder, who will talk about the pro sides of using embryonic stem cells, and then we'll hear the opening statement from Mr. Clay McMillan talking about the con, and then following we will hear rebuttals by both Garrett and Clay. So without further ado, let's turn our attention and our cameras over to the debate podium, and we'll get on the way with the issue of embryonic stem cell research. Garrett.
Embryonic stem cell research has been an extremely controversial topic for Americans, especially economists and politicians. The question that seems to be parading everyone's mind is whether or not stem cell research is in good morals, and if stem cell research can benefit the United States by raising the taxes to increase funding for research. So the first question is if it's in good morals. Seems to be true that if you're looking at a religion standpoint, which you shouldn't be because our country isn't based on religion, but in the Christian belief that life begins at the moment the sperm and egg cell meet. So since there's artificial insemination, there is sperm and egg cells, but they don't have the potential to become a fetus because they're not in a human when the research is partaking. So that really outweighs any morals that are relevant. And the benefits of stem cell research are massive in a scientific and health standpoint. They have the capability of curing nervous system diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and they also are a gateway cure to cancer. So the benefits to many illnesses are found from stem cell research. A more economic standpoint is that the government will have to raise taxes to increase funds for stem cell research. However, they're not increasing the funds for the destruction of the embryos. So it's not in a bad conscience to increase the taxes to pay for the destruction of embryos because that's not happening. They're only creating them and paying for their own destruction.
Should the government fund medical research for embryonic stem cells? Stem cell research helps investigate basic cells that develop organisms. Stem cells are grown in laboratories where scientists carry out these tests to explore the basic properties of the cells. There are many pros to stem cell research, but there are also a couple of cons. Many worry that stem cell research makes abortion seem like an easier alternative for a number of women, including some that would not have even considered it if abortion wasn't an option. Some say that we should not mess with the human life, or that humans should not be trying to play God. Others say that stem cell research in the far future, if it continues, could possibly lead to knowledge on how to clone humans. Of course, we do not know if this is actually true, but either way, we have seen the devastating consequences of other research programs, even those with good intentions, such as nuclear research. People also believe that even though you could fund embryonic stem cell research, it is not morally correct, especially when you can use adult stem cell research instead. Adult stem cells have lacked the attention they deserved, even though they have cured a number of diseases. People have also argued that not enough attention has been given to the potential of umbilical cord blood for use in the stem cell research. And even more importantly, no cures have been discovered through the use of embryonic stem cell research. In the 20 years since the beginning of embryonic stem cell research in 1981, scientists have still not exhibited the capability to control the cells and their associated risks of tumor formation, inappropriate tissue growth, and immune rejection. And the head researchers claim that it will be decades at best before embryonic stem cells might possibly be used for patients. While all of this is happening, there are hundreds of references documenting the ability of adult stem cells from bone marrow, umbilical cord blood, and even fat tissue, and effectively relieving the symptoms of dozens of diseases. The ethical issues of research on aborted fetuses does not justify the possible benefits. Scientists should and will develop more ethical methods, like using adult stem cells, which will enable them to research without any other ethical issues. Embryonic stem cell research should not be funded.
As opposed to what Clay said, abortion and stem cell research have nothing to do with each other. There have been cases where aborted babies have been used for stem cell research, but embryonic stem cell research is in the first few stages of fertilization, so there's no real abortion happening. And when he brought up adult stem cells, yes, adult stem cells can be used to cure diseases. However, the power of embryonic stem cells is 3 times as strong as adult stem cells, because they have a large variation. So embryonic stem cell research can cure nervous system diseases because nerves are one of the most complex cells in our body, and adult stem cells don't have the capability of regenerating nerves. He also said 20 years have been put into embryonic stem cell research. However, scientists have been given inappropriate funds, and because of the large controversy, it's been on and off through the 80s. And when embryonic research is taking place, there are no fetuses involved. The embryos are just recently developed, probably in the span of 4 or 5 days, because that's when the stem cells have the strongest capability of regenerating new cells. So there are no actual fetus in stem cell research, embryonic stem cell research.
You say that embryonic stem cell research could possibly help treat many diseases and a large number of medical problems. But as I said earlier, for 27 years, you have not been able to cure anything, and you haven't discovered anything, and it can't treat anything that you know of. You think it could, but you don't have proof. Don't fund the embryonic stem cell research when you could actually focus your money and attention towards adult stem cell research and other possibilities. Just the other day, on April 9th, Hannah Warren received a windpipe grown from her own stem cells. Hannah Warren is a 2-year-old girl that has been unable to breathe, eat, drink, or swallow on her own ever since she was born in 2010. Until the operation on April 9th, Hannah had spent her entire life in a hospital. The doctors even told her parents that there was no hope and they expected her to die. But they are wrong. The stem cells came from her own bone marrow, extracted by a needle inserted into her hip bone. They were seated in a lab onto a plastic scaffold, and in less than a week, they had multiplied and created a new windpipe for her. This operation transformed a young girl that was going to die in a hospital into a healthy kid. Even though she can't eat like most people right now, she can still eat for once in her life. Hannah was able to taste some food for the first time in her life when doctors let her have a few licks of a lollipop. Her father said that she had already developed selective taste and prefers chocolate Korean lollipops to the American kind. He asked her, "Is it good?" and she immediately nodded her head. Scientists hope to eventually use this method that Hannah had to create solid organs, including kidneys and livers. He says that the operation on Hannah Warren is really showing that the technique is workable. If our intent is to help the patient first, wise use of resources demands that we focus on adult stem cells and make such treatments available to more patients.
Hannah Warren was a child. She had more stem cells than the common adult. So say in this situation, Hannah Warren was a 30-year-old. There would not be a sufficient amount of stem cells in a 30-year-old's bone marrow to create a new esophagus. So she would not have been able to have that operation. And say if Hannah Warren was a 30-year-old with Parkinson's, then she would not get the development of her nervous systems from old bone marrow containing stem cells, because those stem cells are not strong enough to recreate nerves. Hannah Warren, like I said, was a child, so there are more stem cells in her bone marrow because children are in constant development until the age of 21, until their brain stops developing. So
let's see. The doctor that treated Hannah had also treated 30 others with the same method. Out of the 30, only one died, and the rest are just healthy as we all are right now. And then you say how it can't cure like Parkinson's. Well, you don't know that embryonic stem cells can cure it either, do you?
I think we have to stop.
All right. Well, that was a really intense debate. Usually we give the students one rebuttal, and the students just on the fly took
Had
2,
more
3, 4, whatever. I lost count there for a second, but so be it. All right. It was a very good debate by two students who seemed equally matched, who had very good arguments for their side, and I thought they articulated their arguments well. So let's talk first with Ms. Berthume. What was your critique of the two students' performances?
Yeah, I thought this was great. I particularly liked a few things. First is that Garrett organized his arguments. He's been one of the best I think I've seen so far at making sure that he differentiated between his major claims and supported them with evidence. Clay then responded adeptly and offered an alternative to embryonic stem cell research. I thought they both did an excellent job. Both were well prepared. They offered evidence to support their claims, even up-to-date evidence from this week. And it's that type of research that really raises the level of debate.
All right, Mr. Badman, do you agree with that assessment that the two students that you heard just now raised their level of debate?
Definitely agree. In most of these debates, it's pretty easy for me to kind of just judge who won sort of instinctually. In this one, there's not really a clear winner, and if this was an academic debate, it would be very close, and it would take the judge a while to decide. I thought they both did a really good job.
All right, very good. Well, all right, now let's move right along and handicap our next case. And our next case is involving abortion, so it's a nice segue from stem cell research to abortion, as both essentially involved fertilized sperm and egg. A little bit different of an argument, but perhaps some of this same arguments could be made in both cases. We have Josh Granger, who will be arguing the pro side of abortion, and we have Mr. Costin Barber, who will be arguing the con side of abortion. Mr. Badman, since you spoke last, you speak first this time. Handicap this debate for us.
Well, the abortion debates have proven difficult for a lot of the students because they, like stem cell debates, require different values to be weighed against one another. What I'm hoping the students do is they find some points of agreement and are very clear in weighing the benefits of their position versus the benefits of the opposing position, kind of acknowledge the other side's arguments, and then address them directly. So the rebuttals will be really important in this debate.
All right, very good. And Ms. Berthiaume, how would you handicap this particular debate regarding abortion?
I strongly agree. Abortion is obviously a hot button issue, and I think that in order to debate it in an academic context well, the students are going to need to marshal evidence and make sure they're being very specific about their claims.
All right, very good. So without further ado, let's I'm going to preview what you're going to hear. You're going to hear first from Josh Granger arguing pro. Then you hear the opening statement of Kasim Barger arguing the con, and then both sides will have their rebuttals. All right, so let's turn our attention in the camera now to Josh, who will be arguing first. Josh?
Okay, my name's Josh Granger, and I will be arguing the pros of abortion. There are many pros of abortion, some of which have opinions, but most are factual points. The pro that should be mentioned first would be the right to abortion. A woman's right to choose abortion is a fundamental right, as stated by the U.S. Supreme Court. Many believe that a personhood does not start until birth. If this is the case, then abortion would not be the termination of a baby, but rather the ending of pregnancy. A scientist in England discovered that fetuses do not feel pain if an abortion is completed within the first 16 months. Other scientists have sought to disprove this theory, but the main idea is that when an abortion is performed, the fetus is not aware that it is being hurt. Abortions do not harm the mother either. The chance of dying from a safe abortion is roughly 1 to 100,000. Essentially, more mothers die from birth than they do abortions. Although many people think that mothers are cruel or mean for having an abortion, the actual factor is that many mothers have an abortion because they have insufficient funds to raise a child. So they're not saving the baby necessarily, but they're preventing anything from happening where they wouldn't be able to take care of it. Another factor is rape. If a woman is raped, she should not be forced to bear the child of the rapist. For if she does, every time she looks at the child, she might be reminded of the raping. Although this could be a sick way of looking at it, abortion can be a kind of population control. We have all seen what population explosion can do to an economy, and abortion will help keep the population under the limit.
An abortion is an expulsion of an embryo or a fetus. A spontaneous abortion can happen immediately, which is usually said to be a miscarriage. Another type of abortion happens later during the development cycle, in which the embryo is purposely removed from the uterus, and the term abortion usually relates to the intended way. There are two types of which an intended abortion can happen: a safe abortion and a non-safe abortion. An unsafe abortion does not occur in a doctor's office, which constitutes approximately 70,000 maternal deaths and 5 million hospitalizations yearly. 40,000 abortions happen globally, and a little under half are performed unsafely. The issue of abortion is rising in the world, and people are arguing if the abortion should be legal or not. Pro-life supporters argue that life begins at conception, which they say is backed by biological fact, and it is murder when one gets an abortion. Many people on the pro-choice side may say that it is to save a woman's life, yet only 1% of abortions yearly currently performed to save a woman's life. The fact is that the right to be killed overrides the right to be pregnant. This means that the choice of killing an innocent human being has higher standards than the choice of being pregnant. A woman may think that a birth is dangerous, yet they are scared of the fact that they can be killed or hurt. But abortions are far more dangerous than childbirth, because taking something out of a woman's body that should not be coming out at a different time. The word embryo actually means a human at a certain stage of life, so simply believing that one is killed at non-living thing is incorrect. All people are opposed to killing humans, yet some people are pro-choice. Those people are simply contradicting themselves, because an abortion is basically killing innocent children.
Okay, on the opinionative side of the debate, another point would be that a baby should not be born into an unwanted world. So basically, if a mother does not want the baby would obviously not have a very responsible. The mother would not be very responsible or attentive to her baby if she didn't want it in the first place. If the baby is born and the mother does not pay attention to it or treats it badly, the baby will not necessarily have the necessities of a suitable upbringing. A number of estimates have shown that a baby raised in poverty or with incorrect parenting leads to a more criminalistic lifestyle. This includes murder, rape, theft, etc. To sum up, the concept of pro-abortion is that motherhood should never be a punishment for sexual intercourse.
It is biological fact that life begins at conception. Every abortion ends an innocent life. At no moment is an embryo just another part of a woman's body. People point fingers at rape, disability, or just plain unwantedness, but this does not morally justify abortions. People say that abortions are far more safer today than they have ever been, yet they are still dangerous than childbirth. Another alarming fact is that an 8-week unborn baby feels pain during an abortion. Abortions should be outlawed just as slavery and genocide have been. Networks of killing centers eliminate unwanted children yearly. Call this what you want, but this is simply genocide of the human race.
All right, we're back live here again with respect to the debate we just had about the issue regarding abortion. Mr. Batterman, critique this for us. What were your impressions of the arguments made by Josh and Costin in this debate?
They did a reasonable job. There were a lot of arguments that went unresponded to on both sides, and so they didn't get a chance to do the kind of weighing between competing values that I think makes these abortion debates a little bit better. But I think both sides advanced, compelling arguments. They just needed to do a little bit more clash.
Okay, and Ms. Berthume, give us your critiques. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of thrown back a little bit when Josh mentioned the population angle on this particular debate. What were your thoughts on that?
Didn't see that one coming. I think that this sort of goes to some of the difficulties with these types of debates, which is that obviously I would imagine that Costin's response to that would be, that abortion for population control is the very genocide. He spoke of it in his rebuttal.
Right.
And that's sort of why it's important for the debaters to respond directly to each other, because I think that there's some more depth of argumentation could have happened there. But both debaters were pretty passionate and outlined their arguments relatively well. So.
All right, very good. All right, now let's move to our last debate for today, and that is concerning medicinal marijuana. We have two students who are going to argue that position. We have Daria Hossein, who will be arguing the pro side of medical marijuana, and we have Yolani Lopez, who will be arguing the negative side of using medical marijuana. Now, Mr. Batterman, what will you be looking for when you hear these two students debate the issue of medical marijuana?
Well, I'm hoping that the debate centers on medical marijuana. We've had a few debates that sort of deviate into the general arguments about legalization. And I'm hoping that we hear some evidence about the medical benefits of marijuana, the potential costs to society of expanding access to marijuana. I'm hoping that we get a little bit more scholarship and kind of science into this debate.
Yes, would you agree with that, Ms. Berthume? And it seems like in some of the other debates we've had when the issue was medical marijuana, and the students may have drifted off into legalization of marijuana generally, which isn't the precise nature of this particular debate.
I agree. I think that, some of the arguments surrounding legalization in general may have a tenuous connection, that the debate will be best if the debaters are able to focus on the medical issue.
All right, very good. So we'll see if that happens. All right, we have, for your review, we have Ms. Daria Hussein, who will be going first, and who will be giving her opening statement on the pros of medical marijuana. Then we have Yolani Lopez, who will be arguing the negative and giving her opening statement after Daria's opening. And then we'll hear rebuttals from both sides. All right, so without further ado, let's turn our attention and our cameras to the debate podium. And Daria Hussein, take it away.
Marijuana is the third most used recreational drug in America. Marijuana is derived from the Mexican term referring to any cannabis plant. Cannabis can even be dated back to 7000 BC in northern China for the use of textiles, but now the U.S. Congress is debating whether or not to allow for cannabis and marijuana to be legalized in the 50 states for recreational drug use. Marijuana is an illegal substance known as a gateway drug for its lack of addictive features. Illegal substances are usually higher in price for the risks involved in the production, selling, and transportation of it. People who are not rich billionaires who can afford to feed their addiction often reduce to robberies and crime to help pay for their need to continue the drug. Marijuana is easy to manufacture and doesn't cost much if the risks were not involved. Legalizing marijuana reduces the risks involved, thus reducing the prices. Customers and users of marijuana wouldn't need to go rob banks and houses to obtain the money for buying the drug, and crime rates would be reduced significantly. Marijuana is a drug often given to cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy to help reduce the pain, or some forms of suicide are commonly treated with the use of marijuana. California has even legalized marijuana for medical purposes, and the prescription from doctors has become easier and easier to get. Other states, however, have not legalized marijuana for this purpose, and it is still very difficult to obtain a prescription from doctors. Marijuana is not addictive, but the use of it can cause dependence psychologically. Like alcohol or tobacco, marijuana is just a simple pleasure for most people, and alcohol and tobacco can cause deaths, such as alcohol poisoning or lung cancer, but marijuana cannot cause death from overdose. Most doctors agree that marijuana is not dangerous if used in moderation, and do recommend giving prescriptions. The only danger is if a person becomes dependent on the drug. Just like alcohol not being addicting, but people can become dependent, or even food addictions. Food is not addicting but people can become dependent on it. Sin taxes have been known to be a major revenue for American government, such as alcohol taxes or tobacco taxes. Marijuana legalization could be added as another sin tax and may even help the economy, because marijuana would not only be more accessible and cheaper, but there would be a demand shift in the market for marijuana, and our country is in no position to deny having more sin taxes. The cannabis plant can also be used for several different products aside from drugs, such as marijuana, but the bans of cannabis by the federal government has hindered the industries that used cannabis for insect repellent, geotextiles, paper, etc., and those factories and those branches of jobs could create jobs for citizens. Legalizing this plant can expand many factories and companies, creating more jobs and eventually supporting the economy.
Recently, there has been a lot of buzz about the legalization of medicinal marijuana. I do not think medicinal marijuana should be legalized. There are so many harmful side effects of marijuana that could single-handedly tear apart a home. The short-term side effects of marijuana are memory loss, trouble with problem-solving, learning disabilities, and loss of muscle activity. There are also the common side effects for smokers, such as coughing and trouble breathing. There are also the long-term consequences of smoking marijuana, such as lung disease, weakened immune system, impairment of coordination, and sensory mental abilities. This is not just a harmful plant. The chemicals in this plant, such as delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or more commonly named THC, wreck the brain and other vital organs. Studies show that young users lost at least 8 IQ points between the ages 13 to 38. Smoking marijuana regularly can damage cells in the bronchial passages, which protect the body against inhaled microorganisms and decrease the ability of immune cells to fight off fungi, bacteria, and tumor cells. So while people say smoking marijuana put patients at ease, it is also making their sickness worse and killing them. People also say marijuana is not addictive. That is false. It tricks the mind into wanting more of something that is hurting it. Smokers are also 3 times more at risk for heart attacks. Legalizing marijuana would impair America.
Well, as my opponent has said, secondhand smoke problems can arrive, and it does affect the lungs, but as you can tell, marijuana does have many chemicals in it, but cigarettes also have tar and other chemicals that are very bad, but you don't see them putting a ban on tobacco. Why not? Because it's a sin tax and that helps the economy grow and thrive. So why not put marijuana in there, which can also be used for other products as which tobacco cannot. You also said that it could increase, in legalizing marijuana would increase the drugs and allow for the availability to younger students, dropping them 8 IQ points. However, the drug has already been completely available. Although it's illegal, people have found their ways of getting it and are used by teens almost every day, considering that next year schools are giving drug tests. So I'm thinking that it's not going to affect how available it is, but it could also help reduce the risks of teens going for the marijuana, because it would, just like alcohol, there would be a limit on it, or cigarettes, there would be a limit, which is harder to get than marijuana. This country is built on a basis of growth and change. Legalizing marijuana is said to promote the legalization of other drugs and illegal substances, but of course it's going to, because Americans just want more. It's human nature. Every human wants something that they don't have. But the decision is on whether this is okay. On medical marijuana, yes, people are going in California every day getting new prescriptions for things that they do not need. It's a doctor's decision to tell them, no, you cannot have this prescription.
Like my opponent has said, that it is very easy for people to get prescription drugs that are not prescribed to them. Every year, there are thousands of teens that are losing their life by such things as alcohol or taking prescription drugs that are not prescribed to them. The effects of legalizing marijuana are deadly. There are already millions of teens that lose their life over careless mistakes. It takes one party with alcohol to ruin or take away a life. Thousands of teens are hurt due to driving under the influence. Now add the intoxication of marijuana to that. That number has just tripled in size. Society does not need another reason for innocent people to lose their lives. Now I ask you, as an American citizen, are you ready to make the right choice? Are you willing to keep millions of people safe with your vote? Help save the lives of our future generations, the ones who will be in charge of this great nation one day. Help take charge and say no to the legalization of marijuana.
All right, you heard our last debate for this particular period, fourth period. We had Daria Hussein and Yolani Lopez arguing for and against the legalization of marijuana. We'll speak with Ms. Berthume first. Ms. Berthume, please critique their performances for us.
I thought this debate was pretty good. I particularly thought Daria did a good job of highlighting the medical side of things. I think toward the end of the debate, we shifted a little more once again to talking about marijuana in general and legalization rather than medical marijuana. But overall, I thought both debaters did a relatively good job of highlighting the costs and benefits of the issue. The Daria's rebuttal I thought was particularly good at directly responding to each of Yolani's arguments, but both did a good job.
All right, and Mr. Badman, what is your assessment of the students' performances regarding the debate over medical marijuana?
I agree with that assessment. I think that the debate, again, got too far into the general arguments about legalization. The other thing that I wish I would have seen more of from both students is reference to evidence about the medical benefits or consequences of marijuana consumption. Both sides asserted arguments about the possible benefits and the possible health costs, but there were no experts cited, and I think that that's really important.
Okay, very good. All right, now, that's going to be it for our fourth period class for today. We only have a few minutes left. But before we go, I want to give you a preview. In about 10 minutes or so, there's going to be a special lunchtime debate regarding, interestingly, Woodward's drug testing policy, which is essentially going on right now. It's going to be a debate involving Mr. Jackson, me, who'll be arguing against the student drug testing policy, and Mr. Gully, Dr. Gully, will be arguing for the policy. So thank you very much for watching, and please turn in about 10 minutes when we have a special lunch debate series for you. We're signing off right now. Thank you.